What happens when a middle power decides that defense sovereignty matters more than alliance conformity? The answer reveals why Canada's relationship with American defense contractors just entered uncharted territory. Breaking tonight, Ottawa's fighter jet program went from settled to reopened. Defense Minister Bill Blair announced formal reconsideration of the F-35 contract. The Gripen E, eliminated during the 2021 competition, is back under evaluation. And Washington's reaction proves exactly how much leverage just shifted. Everyone believed Canada's 88 F-35 purchase was final. Lockheed Martin executives planned production schedules. Pentagon officials counted on seamless interoperability. NATO analysts assumed Canadian compliance with American defense architecture. All those assumptions collapsed in March 2025. Ottawa, March 2025. Standing before reporters, Defense Minister Bill Blair delivered a statement that sent immediate shockwaves through American defense circles. Canada will formally re-examine the F-35 contract. The Gripen E, Sweden's fighter that scored 19.8 out of 60 points in 2021 evaluations compared to F-35's 57.1, is back in consideration. But the numbers that matter aren't technical scores, they're jobs. Saab's proposal promises 12,600 aerospace jobs, 9,000 tied directly to Gripen production, another 3,600 connected to GlobalEye airborne early warning systems, full technology transfer, domestic manufacturing in Ontario, complete control over maintenance, upgrades, future modifications, and export rights allowing Canada to sell Swedish-designed jets to other NATO countries without American permission. This wasn't a budget recalculation. This was a declaration of industrial independence. And what followed revealed exactly how much control Washington expected to maintain over Canadian defense decisions. Here's what actually happened between June 2025 and today. Canada's Auditor General released a devastating report. The F-35 program cost jumped from 19 billion Canadian dollars to 27.7 billion, potentially reaching 33 billion once infrastructure upgrades, weapons integration, sustainment, and long-term operating expenses were fully accounted for. That's a 75% increase. Not inflation, not minor miscalculation, structural cost explosion that forced a political reckoning. At the same moment these figures became public, Donald Trump, serving his second presidential term, announced plans to impose 25% tariffs on all Canadian goods. His rhetoric went further. Suggestions that Canada could become the 51st state, public insults directed at Canadian leadership, economic pressure tools deployed openly against a NATO ally. Against this backdrop, Canada took a step few anticipated. August 2025, Ottawa signed a new defense and aerospace cooperation agreement with Sweden centered on Arctic security. Saab moved swiftly. Its proposal extended far beyond aircraft sale, full technology transfer, domestic assembly, complete value chain control from production to maintenance. The plan projected 12,600 aerospace jobs, transforming Bombardier from subcontractor to weapons manufacturer. Then came the political calculation that changed everything. Defense costs exploding, American tariff threats escalating, sovereignty concerns intensifying, and a Swedish partner offering something Washington never would: complete autonomy over Canadian defense capabilities. Dear viewers, let me show you something American defense analysts completely missed. This isn't the first time a NATO ally reconsidered reliance on American weapons systems. The difference is what happens when that ally has domestic aerospace capacity, a willing technology transfer partner, and political mandate to reduce U.S. dependence. When Washington structures defense partnerships around proprietary technology, centralized control, and conditional access, what message does that send? That American alliances come with strings attached, that sovereignty is negotiable if you want operational capability, that software updates, mission data, and combat effectiveness all depend on Pentagon approval. When Stockholm offers full technology transfer, domestic manufacturing rights, export permissions, and open source code access, what message does that send? That partnership means autonomy, not submission. That smaller nations can build industrial capacity without superpower oversight. That defense cooperation doesn't require surrendering control. The F-35 structure reveals everything. The aircraft operates less as standalone platform than as network system governed by software containing millions of lines of code. Mission data, sensor fusion, combat effectiveness all depend on continuous updates managed by the United States. With exception of Israel, no operator has independent access to source code. Without updates, performance degrades over time, not through mechanical failure, through technological stagnation. Public debate intensified around rumors of a kill switch, remote capability that could disable aircraft. Both Lockheed Martin and Pentagon denied such feature exists, but denials did little to dispel underlying concern. Control over software updates equates to control over operational viability. If updates stop, aircraft effectiveness diminishes, eventually grounding fleets without a single shot fired. This marked departure from previous generations of fighter jets. Historically, ownership implied degree of autonomy. Aircraft could be maintained, modified, upgraded within agreed parameters. The F-35 model replaced that framework with conditional access governed by centralized oversight and contractual constraints. Canada's Gripen consideration isn't just about cost savings, it's about reversing that dynamic entirely. The Gripen E's operating cost sits near $8,000 per flight hour compared to estimates ranging from $35,000 to $47,000 for the F-35. The aircraft was designed to operate from short runways and dispersed locations, including stretches of highway, capability well suited to Canada's Arctic geography where infrastructure is sparse and weather conditions unforgiving. More significant was Saab's willingness to offer full control over aircraft systems. That promise stood in stark contrast to F-35 program structure. Canada wouldn't just operate Gripens, Canada would build them, upgrade them, modify them, and export them without American supervision. Opposition to reconsidering F-35 did not fade quietly. Late 2025, a leaked technical evaluation from 2021 competition reignited debate. The F-35 scored 57.1 out of 60 points, roughly 95% overall. The Gripen E scored 19.8 points, about 33%. In mission effectiveness, the gap was pronounced. In upgrade potential, F-35 received perfect score while Gripen lagged far behind. Senior military leaders pointed to these figures as validation. Former Royal Canadian Air Force Vice Chief Yvon Blondin argued that national defense demands technological superiority rather than adequacy. Major General Chris McKenna emphasized overmatch, warning that operating mixed fleets would complicate logistics, training, combat coordination. Their concerns reflected legitimate operational realities. In high-intensity conflict, capability differences can determine outcomes. Yet critics raised fundamental question that often went unanswered: superior relative to what mission and which adversary? Canada is not engaged in pure competition with China or Russia. Primary responsibilities of its Air Force center on territorial defense, Arctic surveillance, allied support operations. Within that context, necessity of stealth fighter program approaching $33 billion remained contested. Unexpectedly, skepticism also emerged from business community. Bombardier's CEO cautioned that withdrawing from F-35 program could jeopardize existing contracts with American partners. Warning was not framed as political pressure, but as economic reality. Canadian aerospace firms remain deeply intertwined with U.S. market. Disruption carries consequences. That observation exposed another paradox. The Gripen may be Swedish in design, but its engine, the GE F414, is manufactured in United States. Export licenses for that component fall under American control. Dependence in some form remains unavoidable. Analysts noted Washington could exert leverage through engine approvals, intelligence sharing, trade measures, or even through Canada's role in NORAD. But here's what Trump's team apparently didn't calculate. Every tariff threat, every annexation suggestion, every public insult makes Canadian pursuit of alternatives politically easier domestically. Canadian public supports reducing U.S. dependence after Trump's behavior. Prime Minister Mark Carney has political cover to pursue relationships that would have been controversial under different circumstances. By early 2026, officials adopted cautious language. Full withdrawal from F-35 program remained unlikely, but alternatives were no longer dismissed. The message was deliberate. Canada would not be dictated to, but neither would it act recklessly. As negotiations continued on parallel tracks, Saab proposed hybrid solution. Canada would accept delivery of first 16 F-35s as scheduled, fulfilling initial commitments. Remaining 72 aircraft would be replaced with Gripen variants assembled domestically. The approach sought to balance alliance obligations with industrial development. The risks were clear. Operating dual platforms would increase costs, strain logistics, complicate training. In crisis, inconsistency could undermine effectiveness. Even so, The proposal gained traction because it addressed the core Canadian concern, not capability, control. Dear viewers, here's what this moment actually reveals. Trump thinks tariff threats and annexation rhetoric demonstrate American strength. Force compliance, extract concessions, maintain dominance. What he's actually demonstrating is why middle powers are reconsidering dependence on unreliable partners. When Washington imposes 25% tariffs on ally, suggests military annexation, insults leadership publicly, then expects that same ally to spend $33 billion on American weapon systems with zero autonomy, something fundamental breaks. Canada's Gripen consideration sends unmistakable message to every NATO member watching. Technological sovereignty is achievable. Alternative partnerships exist. American defense monopoly is not inevitable. The pattern is playing out exactly as you'd expect. Trump issues threats, Canada explores alternatives, Sweden offers complete technology transfer, and somewhere in Ottawa, Defense Ministry officials are having very serious conversations about what independent defense capability actually means. This isn't about abandoning NATO. This is about refusing to accept that alliance membership requires surrendering industrial autonomy. One builds dependence, the other builds capacity. Carney committed to initial 16 F-35s, leaving final 72 aircraft as nation's most consequential defense decision in generation, one that will redefine both Royal Canadian Air Force capabilities and what sovereignty means in an alliance increasingly dominated by unpredictable superpower. Trump believes defense pressure showcases American indispensability. He's actually creating perfect demonstration of exactly why Canadian model of diversified partnerships, technological independence, and refusal to accept conditional sovereignty is gaining traction. The world is watching, not just Canada, but every NATO member that depends on American weapons systems, every country that wants operational capability without surrendering control, every ally wondering whether American partnerships still mean partnership or just submission with better branding. The question isn't whether Canada will build Gripens. The question is what happens to American defense dominance when middle powers prove they can.